Hello everybody. My name is Danny King. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Accredible. We are the credentialing backbone infrastructure for over 1,600 of the world's largest and most respected organizations across higher education, professional associations, national credentialing bodies, and businesses. Companies or organizations like Harvard, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge, IEEE, McGraw-Hill, Google, GMAC, and many others use us to issue secure digital credentials. Those credentials might be awards or diplomas or licenses, badges, or many other types of credentials. Today, I'm going to talk about a subject that I really enjoy, which is using digital credentials as a revenue driver for your organization. We'll be exploring how digital credentials impact the revenue streams and drive program growth for organizations delivering credentials to their candidates, members, and learners. And a lot of the features that we're going to see today not only support getting career-advancing credentials into the 21st century and out there in a digital format, but really support the workflows of credentialing programs and ultimately impact the bottom line. So let's dive in and look at some of the ways that digital credentials can support your organization in driving more revenue initiatives. Before we dive into driving revenue, I want to show you an example of how we actually help our issuers with their digital credentials. So on the left here, you can see the traditional example of a certificate. I'm sure that most of you have received either a professional certification or a membership certificate or a badge, and you're probably offering your candidates something like this, either in a paper or perhaps a PDF format. Historically, these have been, and still are, the main formats used for credentials today, but in a digital world, these paper and PDF credentials are a little old-fashioned. They're hard to distribute, they're easy to tamper with, and Accredible wants to move organizations from these paper-based and PDF-based designs and certificates into a digital credential secured by the blockchain, such as the one on the right. This particular digital certificate is from IEEE, one of Accredible's clients. And what makes this digital credential so much more powerful than a traditional credential? Well, to begin with, your recipients can share it in different places, via email or social media, for example. But what's even more interesting is that there's a lot of data that can be shared embedded in the credential itself. It's metadata. So let's take a look at this metadata in more detail. The metadata of a credential details who earned it, who issued it, and when it was issued, but it can also include specific grade data or continuing education points or expiration dates. Digital credentials are being supplemented with much more metadata than ever before, and it's not just the basics. Individuals can now learn about what the average salaries are for a credential that they're considering, or the number of jobs that are open in their geographic area related to this credential. And educational institutions, from universities to professional associations or even tech companies nowadays, who are creating many different certifications, are communicating much more clearly which credentials you can take in order to unlock different career aims that you may have. Does this mean that if you use a service like Accredible, you need to give up on your beautiful physical certificates? Well, absolutely not. You can still enable the ability for recipients to print them themselves, or you can print them directly from our system with the option to add an easy to scan QR code that links to the live credential page. And you also have other more powerful ways of distributing credentials and the information that goes with them. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Whether you offer these credentials as a certificate, as we've seen here with IEEE, for example, or whether they're fully open badge compliant, supported by a digital wallet card that could go, for example, even into an Android or Apple smartphone wallet, this allows individuals to actually prove that they've earned a credential, such as a on-job site, for example, or if we utilize technologies like the blockchain to tackle security issues. So as you can see, Accredible is in fact format agnostic. You decide the way that you want your candidates' credentials to be visualized, and you can decide how your recipient can distribute those credentials to their networks. Let's think about how that enhances your candidate's experience. You're now giving your credential recipients the freedom to decide when and how to share their credentials with the world. They can display a badge in their email signature. They could add a certificate directly to their LinkedIn profile. They can carry their new certificate on their mobile phone or their cell phone to their next job interview. They could show a certificate of their cell phone to prove that they're authorized to work. AMPP, for example, one of our clients does this. That's real value for your candidates, and all with the peace of mind that a blockchain-based security platform can give you and your recipients, give you the safety of knowing that nobody can tamper with your digital credentials. We'll talk about this later in detail, but for now I will say that blockchain secured credentials are virtually tamper-proof. I want to reiterate this point, that organizations should see the power of digital certificates as an opportunity to expand their brand visibility and the reputation of traditional certificates, not just necessarily as a substitute for your existing system. Let's look at some examples of how digital credentials are used to give you an idea of how natural, easy, and logical this next step in the evolution of credentialing can be. Digital badges are versatile and can be used to represent any type of career advancing credential, but are most commonly used to represent credentials that take a short time to earn, such as an individual module completion or perhaps attending an event or a conference. Digital badges used for module completion are often referred to as micro-credentials when they can be used as standalone awards or stacked credentials that culminate in the recipient earning a final badge or perhaps even a digital certificate to represent the full program at the end. Digital certificates, on the other hand, are generally used for credentials that take longer time to earn, such as a degree or a diploma or perhaps a certification. The dedicated credential page for a digital certificate provides room for additional information and documentation, including samples of work, references, transcripts, and examination results. The additional space on the dedicated credential page helps to convey the value of the issued certificate or credential to both recipients and third parties, including hiring managers, recruiters, and prospective candidates. And digital certificates are also used to represent official documentation. For example, professional associations can use digital certificates to represent association membership or to reward completion of exclusive member programs and continued education. Let's see an example of how modern associations might utilize digital credentials in more detail, just to show how versatile digital credentials can be. Here are the three core ways that we see associations using digital credentials today. On the left, I'd imagine the vast majority of you do offer some type of professional certification or perhaps a designation, whether that's accredited or not. Lots of our clients use credentials in this way. For example, the International Association of Privacy Professionals here, this is an ANSI accredited professional certification that they're able to offer in this digital certificate format. In the middle, we've got a membership recognition, and lots of our association clients or customers are now starting to utilize credentials as a way to showcase an affinity to their brand. We probably see the most of this use case in people putting them in their email signatures, for example, where individuals get to display their badge of honor outside of just, their office wall. And finally, we're seeing lots of use cases for continuous professional education. You can see here that IEEE, their credential, that we're actually tracking the education units so that individuals can receive these in a digital format. We're able to keep track of them, and then recipients can offer them to their workplaces to show that they have completed these certifications, which then turn into, a renewal for things like continuous education credits. Fantastic. So now we've got an understanding of what digital credentials are and how versatile they can be. Some of the use cases out there, let's look at how they start to underpin your revenue streams. So how can we start to utilize digital credentials in a way that actually creates a positive ROI and not just be a cost for you and your organization? Firstly, let's explore a feature called collections. Some other providers might refer to these as pathways. What digital credentials can do is to start to give you an opportunity to showcase to your candidates what credentials should be earned and when they should be earned, in what order. We can create linear or non-linear pathways of credentials. What that allows you to do is A, show recipients what the next step is from the credential itself, and B, show the rest of the world, the public, which credentials have been received within that collection. This way, this starts to drive revenues, especially for those of you who are charging on a per course basis for your learning, because we start to encourage and incentivize individuals to understand what the next step is or the next steps in order to achieve the full credential. It's an opportunity for us to link straight from the credential they've earned to the next opportunity. So let's say they've just completed their first credential, we can encourage them to take the next one in that process. And we can even include a link in the credential delivery email or the dedicated credential page that drives them directly to that next call to action to sign up. One of the things that we work with issuers on, or our customers on, is completion rates. We want to make sure that individuals are getting value from the courses when they're spending their money, and that we're getting the completion rates as high as possible for you. That's a challenge for anyone across the entire learning spectrum, so any opportunity we have to increase engagement and to increase those completion rates is going to be really great. And ultimately, it's going to help you to drive more value behind the credentials that you offer. We can utilize that opportunity to drive learners to the next step. If you're charging per course, this presents an opportunity to take an average sign-up of 1 or 2 courses and push that perhaps to 3 or 4. But this is also an opportunity to exponentially increase revenue through further engagement with your courses. Giving this kind of information to learners is having a very real impact. One of our larger customers, for example, reported after implementing pathways and various other parts of our digital credentialing program, seeing an increase in course completion rates of over 50% than they had before they launched their digital credentials. This is one of the typical ways that we see organizations starting to utilize a digital credentialing platform and starting to really push the ability for an individual to go through a particular learning pathway. Digital credentials are not just an opportunity for recipients to showcase their own personal achievements. Issuers are effectively piggybacking on their recipients to promote their brand as well. Think of it as a co-marketing effort. As recipients promote themselves, they're effectively also becoming marketing agents of the organizations that gave their credentials to them. With Accredible, for example, recipients can share their credentials on their LinkedIn profile or view it on their LinkedIn feed. They can also share, their credentials on Facebook, Twitter, and actually over 100 other social media platforms. This essentially is a zero-cost marketing tool for the issuing organization. Sharing credentials organically like this spreads brand awareness and ensures that your brand stays top of mind. And let's imagine a recipient, shares his or her credential to LinkedIn. One of their colleagues might be naturally compelled to click on that credential displayed, leading them to the digital credential page where they can learn more about the credential, navigate to the issuer's website, learn more about your certification programs, and perhaps sign up for a course or a membership as well. And that's without spending a single penny on any advertising. And of course, who are the people in their professional networks or their friend groups that are looking at these credentials? They're going to be very, very similar to your target audience. If we refer back to modern associations, they issue career advancing credentials, and the cost of these credentials in terms of membership dues is often quite high. This means that it's paramount for associations to be able to demonstrate the value to its members at all times. One way to do this is to enable members to share their valuable and respected membership credential with their offline and online communities. In the era where personal branding reigns, this is a huge value to add for members where, particularly when combined with a sophisticated yet easy to use online credential. An association member celebrates getting a credential by sharing it digitally with friends, industry peers and colleagues. This isn't just a celebration of a personal accomplishment, it's a key opportunity for your members to do some powerful personal branding, and they will appreciate you supporting their effort. The use case of membership credentials also applies to recognizing affiliation, allowing your candidates to showcase their affiliation and involvement with virtual in-person events. The sharing benefits are the same, but now you gain the additional benefit of boosting visibility of your brand, your credentials, and your events. This is an interesting one, often referred to as the credential lifecycle management. Most associations have a membership credential, which expires every year or 2 years or perhaps 3 years. Outside of associations, there are many organizations that offer a professional certification, and because of the increasing drive for continuous learning, many of these credentials do also have an expiration period as well. The fantastic thing about these digital credentials is we can start to underpin that process. Now, historically, it's a very manual process for renewals, and we're often sending out a certificate every few years. And then there's the problem of, once someone has this certificate in hand, it's difficult to revoke or pull that back if we need to, or to make any necessary amendments. The thing I love about digital credentials, and the thing that I believe really makes them so powerful, is that they live in real time. Say we need to renew a credential because it's been 2 years. The members are coming up for renewal and they've paid their dues, or the candidate is returning to refresh and update their skills. We can just do this by updating the credential they already have. And Accredible can do smart things such as send renewal reminders, and it can also let people know that their credential has expired and put a warning on the credential to any member of the public viewing it. That the credential is not valid. What does that actually do? It drives down your attrition because ultimately there's a very public window for the status of that validity, and it's more important than ever for your candidates to actually go and renew their credential. Having digital credentials is a fantastic way to encourage renewals and reskilling. Or if you're struggling with attrition, you may have some laggers who are not renewing on time and you're struggling with that process. It's a very manual process that takes time. Well, digital credentials can take all the heavy lifting and really start to have a positive impact on the amount of individuals who are actually renewing their credentials on time. More renewed credentials, more recipients, that means more revenue. And digital credentials can provide a great opportunity from that perspective. This is another interesting perspective. Digital credentials are created in a bid to stamp out fraud. It's simple for most people who have a PDF or even a paper credential and a few Photoshop skills or a decent printer to fraudulently recreate credentials. Even secured PDFs are often easily bypassed and are simple for individuals to spoof credentials and start claiming them as true. Fraudulent credentials are a major problem. A survey by ADP revealed that 23% of resumes that were submitted to a background check contained some type of fraudulent credential. To put that into perspective, if you're interviewing right now, the chances are that 1 in 4 people that you're interviewing are in some way lying about their credentials. Now, if you're wondering about how this impacts revenue streams, every credential that is fraudulently claimed dilutes the value of your credentials. It's also taking revenue away from your organization because that person isn't going out and paying for the credential. Although this isn't actively generating money and doesn't directly drive revenue, it's a way to protect your existing revenue streams because digital credentials are immediately verifiable. And as we utilize new technologies like the blockchain to fight fraud, we can really start to drive those fraud numbers down. Blockchain credentials exist, not just on our servers, but are replicated onto the millions and millions of other computers in the world that are on the same blockchain as us. And in order to make a fake credential now, you would need to hack the majority of computers in the world on the same blockchain at the same time. And that really just isn't possible. You need orders of magnitude more computing power than we have on the entire planet in order to pull that off. And even then, you'd still be able to notice. It's a very powerful technology. So what does it mean? It means that the people are less likely to try and claim that they have a credential because it's so easy for their claims to be checked. We can then utilize this to prevent dilution of your market and prevent dilution of the worth of your credentials. This encourages individuals to actually go and take the course or sign up for membership. Although prevention is one of the passives that is not as direct as some of the other things we do, it should ultimately have a very positive impact on your bottom line. To summarize, digital credentials drive revenue through enhancing the learner journey by clearly outlining the ways that individuals can progress through courses and providing elements of gamification to motivate course completion. Boosting referral rates by making it easy for recipients to share their achievements and affiliations to social media platforms and LinkedIn profiles and increase visibility of your brand, your credentials, and your programs. Increase control over expiration and validity, motivating recipients and members to return and renew their career-advancing credentials and professional memberships. And protecting the value of issued digital credentials by recording credentials against the blockchain to prevent credential fraud and harm your brand's reputation. Okay, so that's a look at how to utilize digital credentials as a revenue driver. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about the benefits of digital credentials, please do book a session with one of our credentialing experts or head over to our website, accredible.com, and download some of our existing resources. Remember, you can also always get in touch with our experts at any time from our website, or you can sign up for a trial account of our software, and that trial gives you everything you need to test out Accredible. We've helped thousands of organizations, including Google, Slack, Sailor Academy, and Skillsoft, leverage their recipient networks through digital credentials, so I'm confident we can help you. Thank you again, everybody, and have a really great day.